Hi, everyone. My name's Miran. We're here with another YBN interview series. Today, we have a special guest in Kevin Nealis, who is the Chief Marketing Officer and President at Arthur J. Gallagher. So, Kevin, I'd like to get right into it here. Before we get into insurance, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself outside of insurance?
Sure. Thanks, Miran. I'm a born and raised Winnipegger, and I lived here virtually all of my life. But outside of insurance, I have a lovely wife, Tracy, and we have two adult children, Garrett, who actually works in the industry, but also thinks he wants to be a rock star at some point in time, and he's working on that sort of dual career. And our younger son, Adam, who just graduated from kinesiology, and he works in a gym called Testify at the rink as a fitness trainer, and he's looking forward to going back next year to embark on his master's in kinesiology. So we spend a lot of time together when we can, pandemic allowing. And but outside of that, to keep myself busy when I'm not working, I love to golf in the summer. Love to work out and go for long walks. The new thing to do, going for long walks with your spouse, because there's not a whole lot else you can do during the pandemic. And we love to travel as well, which we haven't been able to do. So we will make up for that once the world allows us to do so.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that must have been quite a transition, hey? Because I know even for like your career, I'm sure you do frequent travel, never mind your vocational travel.
Yeah.
Has that been tough to adapt?
Yeah, so for work, normally I would travel at least 2 or 3 times a month and be gone for 2 or 3 days each time. A lot of Toronto, and as in my role as president of Western Canada, we had just realigned our Canadian executive structure at Gallagher just prior to the pandemic, and I did have a trip plan to go out west to visit all of the offices that I'm responsible for, and unfortunately, we had to cancel that trip, and we've not been able to do it since. So there's actually a couple of offices that were acquired businesses that I've not been in the office yet. So, but I've had many virtual meetings, and I do like traveling. I like the business traveling as well. I spent a lot of time in Toronto before the pandemic, and we got a great team in Toronto, and I always enjoy going to visit with them. But haven't traveled since I think I got back from my last trip on March 5th of 2020, and I have not been on a plane since. So
yeah, well, you got to fill that time with some more golf, hopefully this summer, eh?
Yeah, that's it seems to be a place where the pandemic doesn't exist on the golf course. It's quite a nice break from everything.
For sure. So my next question for you, Kevin, is, just with respect to work-life balance, obviously, like you said, you're the president of Western Canada, but also the chief marketing officer. So non-COVID, that required a ton of travel and obviously a lot of responsibilities, and I know you also serve on some boards on your off time from work. So between that and, your family, how do you manage all of that?
So it is a bit of a balancing act. Of course, without the traveling, it does have a little bit of an easier time. But with the kids both being adult kids now, they look after themselves basically. So it's a little bit easier to do. My wife works from home. She has some online chats that she does. She worked for a number of years in television production with Shaw, and she's got an online show now, and really great show talking about all sorts of interests, focusing on women in the business place and that sort of thing. But so she's at home, and we see quite a bit of each other because I do most of my work from home now. So it's there's always a challenge to balance things off, but from the get-go, I had a wise person tell me, always schedule your family things first and your personal things first. And I tended to do that, and I still tend to do that, so that we can make the family a priority. You know, it's interesting though, because with the role of chief markets officer, what I am in charge of is all of our insurer relationships in Canada.
Yeah.
And as you know, the market has been a bit challenging over the last couple of years, and that's been amplified by the pandemic. So it has been busy. So that ability to step away from my computer and to step away from work is extremely important. And that might be a 30-minute workout in the basement, or as I said earlier, we go for nice long walks. Even in the coldest days of the winter, we get out just to get away. So I think it's important for everybody to do that, to take time for yourself, take time for your family, and not get completely engulfed in work. Because it's, working remotely, it's easy to leave the computer on and be at it for all hours of the day and evening.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in your role as chief marketing officer, I'm sure you just get every producer in the office just calling you.
Yeah, well, and it's right across Canada. So, but we have a pretty good, I'm going to call it escalation process, where we try and escalate problems through the proper channels, be it locally through the underwriters, and then regionally through regional VPs with the insurers and our area presidents. And by the time it gets to me, it has been really well dealt with. So, it makes it, one, it's difficult to deal with it because it's those things that can't be resolved at the lower levels, but we do try and leverage our relationships where we can, where it's reasonable to do so. And I found the end of 2020 was it was nutty. But so far, things are settling down a little bit. The market is not by any means softening, but we certainly are seeing insurers being more willing to talk about things and discuss opportunities. So but that balance, it's really critical.
Yeah, definitely. So for my next question, I'll take it back a few years, I guess. But just reading up on you, I knew you were on the IBAM board for 6 years overall, and one of those years being the president.
Yes.
So how did you originally get involved with the IBAM board?
So it was interesting. We had done an acquisition of a business called Cook Insurance. I guess it was Unicity Insurance, actually, that was owned by the Cooks, and Earl Cook was a past president of the association, and when we bought them, he kind of recommended very strongly that, I was pretty young at the time, and he says, you should get involved in the Brokers Association. So, I did get involved. I got invited to join the board, and I really did get entrenched in it. It was extremely interesting at the time. Bill O'Brien was in the role that we call CEO of IBAM right now, and learned a lot from him, and learned a lot from other folks like Reg Wyatt and some of the other folks that were veteran insurance people, and it was a very worthwhile and a very fulfilling scenario. So I did agree to become an executive member, and then sat as a year for president. Actually, to be honest, it was for a year and a bit, because the convention was supposed to be on to replace me. And that was when we had the large spring floods, and we had to, at the last minute, cancel the IBAM convention and put it off until August. So I actually got to spend an extra 2 months in the role of president.
Okay, there you go. Awesome. So, I mean, two-parter question here. What benefits did you see for yourself by participating with the board, and how do you think just general industry involvement can benefit young brokers particularly?
So it was interesting because, at the time I joined the board, the business that I was working in, Ranger Insurance, was pretty young still. Like, we were, about 10 years old at the time, and we hadn't established great relationships with our insurers, and we hadn't established that really necessary credibility as an organization. And in in being able to spend time on the board, one, it showed the industry outside, the insurers and whatnot, that, we were, as an organization, prepared to give back. But as I mentioned earlier, I learned from a lot of the people that were on the board, a lot of the veteran brokers, and as opposed to being seen as the young upstart business that was taking other people's accounts, they got to recognize the fact that, we wanted to do things right. We wanted to be a very professional broker, and, it really solidified the relationship with our competitors, and it really solidified relationships with our insurers. And I think it's a really important thing to know your competitors and to be on good terms with them, because, we're in this to do the best that we can for our clients. And sometimes that means you need to communicate with your competitors and kind of figure out issues, figure out roadblocks, and, figure out the best thing. So it's good to kind of know your competitors and, as they say, know your enemy. But I don't see anybody as enemies, to be honest. We're all in this for the same reason. And it's a small community in Manitoba, and I think it's really important to be a part of it. In anything too, I think it's important. You get so much out of it, so you need to be able to give back and feel like you're giving back. I learned a lot about board governance and all those sort of things too, which certainly helped as I moved out into, other board positions within the community.
Yeah, no, great. And I think, young brokers, because the IBAM board, of course, there needs to be something that you can bring and be of value, right? It's not as simple as just, I want to do it. But the YBN is, a great step below where, you don't need crazy amount of qualifications. Just, are you in this age group? You're in the industry, boom, right? And you kind of get that surface level experience of it anyway.
I think it's a great initiative. I'm a huge supporter of the YBN, and I think the only thing I can say that I'm disappointed about with the YBN is when it first got initiated, I was too old to be a member of it. So, so then that was the first time I really started feeling old. But anyways, no, I think it's a great initiative. It's a great way to get people, the feel of a committee role and a board-like role, and I think it's a great training ground for future board members of IBAM and other organizations.
Yeah, definitely, and just the networking. It's been awesome. For me, my biggest disappointment has been having to take the minutes. Gosh, those are brutal. And in our kind of last term, we had someone that in an executive position that had to step down. So we kind of did a year and a half each in the role.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, I got to do minutes for another half term.
Well, I tell you what, it is sometimes it takes away from your being able to contribute in the meeting, but those minutes are critical for, as you know, for being able to trace where you've been and where you need to go. So I think it's a great record. So congratulations for doing that, and it's a good experience that will serve you well down the road.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. So I just want to ask, kind of next question would be about education. So, I know you're no stranger to that. You completed a bachelor's degree. You did both the CABE and CRM programs. So my question is, do you think young brokers should make education a priority? And for you, like, what benefits did you see by completing these programs, particularly the insurance ones?
I got to tell you, I'm a big supporter of training and education. When I graduated from university, a little funny story, I graduated with a degree in phys ed. So my son just graduated with a degree in kinesiology, which is the same, but it sounds so much smarter, kinesiology versus phys ed. So I did get a note from the University of Manitoba congratulating me on, I think now it was the 35th or something anniversary of my graduation from kinesiology. So they're finally acknowledging I'm not a phys ed grad. But anyways, I did, early on in my in the insurance career, go through all of the CABE to get my designation, and then as I started to work more in the commercial space, and particularly larger commercial space, went through the CRM program. And I think those programs are great programs in terms of the level of information that's provided within them. And I think they're extremely well delivered, either be it through, with the CABE, through IBAM and the other sister associations, and on the some of the other continuing education, it's done through university, remote learning, that sort of scenario. So the availability of the courses are there. You learn so much, it makes you that much more of a professional. And I would say to anybody getting into the business, please do as much as you can. And, you do it at your own pace, because, if you're working while you're studying, it's a difficult balance. And particularly if you're young, you might have a young family and whatnot. So you need to balance it off. But I highly, highly recommend the continuing education. And particularly if you're focused in a certain area, you can kind of earmark what you want to do in terms of your training too.
Yeah. I did, I've been in the industry now 3 years, and I came right into a commercial role, no insurance experience. And in the beginning, I felt very I don't know if I can do this. I was never the smartest kid in the classroom or, those kind of things. But I did the K program as fast as I could, and I felt like I had a decent understanding, and I worked off a small book of business. So you learn as you go. But just this past year, I've been starting to take some CIP ones, and I just finished one, the liability course. And I kid you not, this morning I had a client call me, and something I learned from that course was so relevant to our conversation.
Yeah, isn't it great when that those sort of circumstances validate all the efforts that you put into the course?
Yeah, exactly. And I think CABE it's a great starter program for sure, but it's a bit of everything, right? So like you said, I haven't done CRM. I hope to do that one day as well, but I know with CIP, you really got to drill down on certain subjects. And
if I could do it over again, I think I would actually go through the CIP courses. Once I did CABE and the CRM, though, I was so busy in the day-to-day work, and at that time the family was a bit younger, so I never did progress through that. But I think those are extremely valuable courses, and they make you understand in great depth, your business. The other aspect of it, and it's not a formal course scenario, but just the opportunity for mentorship with people within your business, within your industry, even if it's not with your own brokerage. It's picking a mentor from another brokerage or from an insurance company, and really pick their brains as much as you can. One of the things with Gallagher now is we've got a good number of very young producers and very young account managers, and at the same time we've got some long-standing veteran folks like a Scott Feasy or a Jeff Bell that have been around forever, and they do just such an amazing job of mentoring the young kids, and they really literally take them under their wing and meet on a weekly basis with them and focus, if it's a specific area of coverage that they want to specialize in, and that's absolutely invaluable.
For sure. Everyone can, I think, look back in their career, and there's some people that really helped you in that way. And just how this interview came together, Cole Leach of Avant, he's part of our committee. And when we were talking about it in our last meeting, who could we do? And he said, Kevin Nealers or Scott Feasy. And he talked about how when I was a up and comer, knew nothing, both of those guys really helped me, whether it was just salesmanship or insurance stuff. And you could just tell the way he spoke about you guys that it's a lasting impact, right?
Oh, that's nice to hear. And Cole, as you can see through a lot of the recognition he's had, he's doing a very nice job and having some great success with Avant.
Yeah, he's doing well these days for sure. Awesome, Kevin. So let's go way back to the start. How did you actually start a career in insurance from doing phys ed?
Yeah, well, it's kind of odd because along with doing phys ed at the university, I played football with the Bison football team. And I was fortunate enough after that to get a chance to try out in the Canadian Football League, and I played for 3 seasons with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. One of the fellows I played with is a CFL Hall of Famer whose name is Joe Poplawski, who at the time we were playing had already started with Ranger Insurance, which is, our predecessor company to Gallagher.
Right.
And Joe had asked me if I'd be interested in giving it a try, and I kind of said, "Yeah, well, we'll see." And then we had a mutual friend that was kind of a bit of a personal mentor, a life mentor to me. And he said, Kevin, you really should give it a try. And then I had an injury at in the middle of the '86 season, which ended my season. And, it started to look like maybe I should, be preparing for that next phase in life. So Joe introduced me to Ken Vesey, who and Warren Dagelman, who were the senior partners at Ranger at the time. I met with them, and they brought me on board, and I thought it was going to be a part-time thing, and I would go back and play football. But as it turned out, that injury kind of curtailed things a little bit more so, and the CFL was going into it had a little rocky time back there in the mid-'80s. So I got into the insurance, and I still remember the day that I made that decision. Ken Vesey looked at me, and he said, within a year, you're going to think back to this day and look at it as the best decision you ever made. And I would say he was wrong. It was only 6 months. It was less than a year. And I realized I was in the right career.
Wow. Awesome. I ask everyone that question, and that's definitely the most, like, you did something totally different, right? So
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. But
well, what really struck me, I thought of insurance as, oh God, I got to go bug on my friends to buy policies from me, but it's not that. It's what we deliver, particularly in the property and casualty side of things, is we deliver that confidence to the clients that they're looked after, and you realize very quickly that whether it be people within your brokerage, insurance company, people and clients, it's a people business, and it's all about people. And I've always enjoyed, interacting with people and being around people. So it's, that's what struck me right off the bat, is how much of a piece of people business it was. And, I really liked the idea of policies that renew, because it's like building an annuity for yourself if you look after people well. And as their businesses grow, your business grows, and, doing a great job for them leads to referrals and that sort of thing. So it's, it was apparent right away that, it was a good fit for what I like to do and for my, kind of strengths and characteristics that, so I was pretty pleased that it didn't take long to recognize that.
Yeah, no, good stuff. I know for myself, like, I always knew I wanted to do something within a role that had a sales element to it, preferably in business to business. And I think I was working at a TELUS dealership doing corporate sales for them, which is a pretty good starter gig, for, I think I was 21 at the time. And I would talk to Veteran, of course, a lot. And he just started becoming a BDR at Walmanisa. And he'd tell me, he's like, man, like, these commercial producers, like, you write these renewable policies, and every year they grow at least by inflation, or if businesses grow, like, you build this book of business. And he really, like, explained that to me. And I just saw, it's like I had light bulbs above my head, I was like, that's what I want to do, because the business I was in was there was nothing, you weren't compensated for retention. So it was strictly hunting all the time, which was fun and a good skill to have. But, I'm still in my young career, but I look forward to 15 years, 20 years from now, and having some of the same clients, and the relationships you build with that.
It's great relationship. It's interesting because when you talk about insurance, it doesn't have that kind of curbside sex appeal kind of that some other things have. And one of the lessons that I learned, and I learned it actually quite late, it was 5 or so years ago right now, an individual who was the golf pro at the golf club I was at approached me, and he said, Kevin, I'd like to get into your business. And I kind of ignored him. And he called me back again. I ignored him again. And finally, after the third time, I said, okay, let's sit down and meet. But I was thinking, even after being in the business for, 25 plus years, I was thinking, golf pro is such a sexy career. Insurance is like,
Yeah.
why would this guy want to come over? But when I found out that, he had a young family, and during the summer months, he'd work 18-hour days, and he'd be busiest on weekends. So he'd never gone camping with his kids. He wasn't able to coach any of their teams. He wasn't able to do any of that stuff because he was tied into the golf course. And you know what? Golf pros don't make a lot of money up here.
No.
So, we got him into our business and started at a very similar salary level. And he's a very bright guy, went through CABE in record time, decided to become a specialist in cyber liability. And he's rocking it. He's probably now the preeminent cyber liability expert in the province of Manitoba, and definitely one of the top 2 or 3 in Canada. And I will give him a plug. Brian Dagg is his name. So anybody wants to know anything about cyber liability, he's your guy. But again, it was that far into my business, and I didn't realize how good this is, even to somebody that's in a career like golf, which everybody kind of would think of, wow, that would be great. Anyway, so that just tells you a little bit more about how good of an opportunity our business is. And yes, guess what? He's golfing more than he ever did.
Yeah.
He coaches his kids' teams, and they've gone camping a ton.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. Like you said, it's not that curbside sexy appeal, but when you're in it and you realize what you can build for yourself, if you're willing to, put your head down for a few years, you can really live a great life, right?
Oh, you certainly can. And you see a lot of great, lifestyle. But, lifestyle is one thing. It's great, obviously, but it's also great that you can earn that doing something that you love, doing it, looking after people, making sure their businesses are protected, making sure their families are protected. So the fact that you can earn a great lifestyle doing that is very fulfilling.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll ask you, I mean, I think you may have touched on it a few times on that last question, but what made you decide to stay in insurance? Like when you brought up the conversation where you knew the answer to that question 6 months later of how it was not going to be a regret.
So it was a lot of the people, you mentioned Scott Peasy earlier, and I think I might have as well. His dad was the founding partner of Ranger Insurance, and him and I had a lot of talks. I watched the way that he dealt with his clients, and how much care and concern he put into looking after the clients, and it just felt right. And he looked after me well, as did Joe Poplawski and Warren Dagelman, and they allowed me to buy into the business early on. And then as a partner, you just, there's a natural progression. You get a little more confidence in the business. You can impact the direction the business is going. So, once I bought in, it was less than 2 years into me being in the business. I just knew that was the trajectory I was going to go on. And, I'm in my 35th year in the business right now. And all 35 years have been basically with the same company, or the company that bought out Ranger. So it was Ranger for 29 years, and it's been Gallagher for the last 6 years.
Wow. Awesome. So in your entire career, who would you say your biggest role model or mentor was, and what would be the most memorable lesson that they taught you that still sticks to you today?
I'll go back to I mentioned Ken Feasy. It just the passion he had for his clients, and the passion he had for the business, and also he knew what his strength was. He knew his strength was looking after clients and bringing in new clients. And when it came to, trying to change the direction or build on the direction our business was going, he recognized he wasn't the guy to do it. And he thought that I had some of those attributes. And, he supported those attributes and, helped me kind of build on, from a producer to an owner, manager, operator sort of thing, a principal partner. And so, watching him both with how good he was at what he was doing and the fact that he knew very well the stuff that he wasn't good at. And that was a really, really great learning for me. And it sort of helped to kind of frame and put reference around the way I do things now. So he was, and other partners, Warren Degelman, Joe Poplawski, they led with passion. They led with honest hard work, and that's always a great thing. So we had a really good thing. We had great partners. We developed young folks to come into the business and created some career paths for them as well. And we've got a great deal of longevity. As a matter of fact, when I moved out of the region to take on the Western Canadian president, I was able to move Kim Aird into the area president role in the Prairies. Well, gosh, she started 25 years ago, literally in the file room, and she's done every job within our business. And now she's doing the area president role better than I ever did. So
incredible. No, that's good stuff. So not to be super negative, but obviously when you bought in around 2 years, you experienced getting bought. I know AJG has also made acquisitions since then.
Yeah.
So looking back, what would you say the biggest challenge you have faced thus far in your career?
I think the biggest challenge was early on in our business when you're trying to grow and you need funds to grow, you need money to seed acquisitions, and we probably didn't always do things in as financially sound of a way. So there were growing pains and there were challenges. There were a few days there, a few months where we wondered where the business was going to be. But as we emerged from it, you recognize the things, the do's and the don'ts. So, there's some things that are just don'ts that if we could do over, we would do differently. But, one of the keys was at the time we had an opportunity to invest in a bit of a risk management business, which was US based. And quite frankly, we just shouldn't have done it. We should have just stuck to what we know best. And that's, I think, something that people should understand, is stick to what you do well and stick to what you know. The other down things, and you'll probably laugh, but every time I lose an account that I've had for a while, every time it's a bad moment, and I stress over it still. Wonder if there's something I could have done to change the outcome. But the reality is every account, every client, every business has its lifespan. So at some point in time, you are going to lose an account, but lose it with dignity and professionalism, and often they'll come back. And but there's always a lot more accounts out there. So, I always tell people now, you can whine about it for a day and then get selling something else.
Yeah. Spoken like a true sales manager. Awesome. So we'll go on the positive side of that coin. What was the proudest or happiest moment of your career?
I think there was a few. I mean, being installed as president of the Brokers Association was a real honor, and it was a real thrill for me. And we had a young, Garrett was just a young child then, and my wife was expecting with another child. So that was, proud time, proud moment. We made a decision in 2006 to become part of a national brokerage network, and what it entailed one of our insurance companies to take over a majority ownership in us. The group was called the Noraxis Group, and RSA was the majority owner. So we maintained, minority positions in ownership, but I think when we did that, we did it for the right reasons. We had a few shareholders that were needing to be bought out, and we wanted to be able to do that at the highest return for them possible. And at the same time, we wanted to grow, so we wanted to do some acquisitions, and we needed cash to do that. So this avenue created that opportunity, and so when we did that, I committed to the partners that within 5 years we would make sure that the part that we still owned was worth more than the whole was at the beginning. And again, I was wrong, because it was now it doubled twice as opposed to just once. So we were able to, through acquisitions like you mentioned earlier, Cole Leach. Well, his dad Nick Leach owned Flanders Insurance, so we bought that. We bought Watt Insurance, and just buying these businesses created the opportunity. And we had a network of a few franchise offices, which we bought back. It was great. And at the same time, while we were growing through acquisition, we had really, really strong organic growth, and particularly expanding commercial appetites with the Neuraxis Group. We now have a lot more market access than we ever had just locally in Winnipeg. And also, what it did is it allowed me, there was a number of other brokers, Renfrew Insurance in Calgary, CG&B Insurance in Toronto, Stevenson and Hunt in London, Ontario, Bell and Grant in Halifax. So we were able to sit on each other's boards of directors. So twice a year we'd have directors meetings, and we'd go across the country to the various places. But you really learned a lot about the other businesses and how they ran their businesses. I became absolute best of friends with all of the CEOs of those businesses, and a number of them are still with us as eventually the Neuraxis Group in 2014 sold to Gallagher. And you sometimes worry whether or not it's going to be a good thing, but as I look back 6 years later, it's an incredible thing. It's been just fantastic. All of the leadership that was involved has taken on, great roles in the business. Phil Gauntz, for instance, was the CEO of Bell and Grant, and he's now the COO for Canada and president of Eastern Canada, which includes Atlantic and Quebec. So it's been great. It's been financially very rewarding, but more so than anything, it's been enjoyable, and the people that you deal with, make those wins that much sweeter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, and it sounds like, you've been in it for a while, so you've really experienced everything from starting small to joining a bigger company and all these mergers, right? And you said it yourself, it's been financially rewarding and enjoyable the whole time. So
yeah, when I first started, I got to tell you, like Autopac at the time renewed at the end of February. There's one renewal date and we would literally go through January all the way through February, every day, driving around to friends' houses, businesses, picking up their Autopac, processing it in the office, and bring it back. That was the way it happened, but it was great. We'd all do it together, and you'd have your windfall through that month, and it was great though when it did spread out through the year, because it brought some sanity back for all of us.
Oh no, I can imagine that'd be a hectic time.
Yeah,
but just with how decorated of a career you've had, like what's motivating you today?
I think what motivates me today, I get more excitement now out of helping one of our young producers, or helping somebody in one of our other offices across Canada either sell a new account just by introducing it to them, or helping them in some fashion, or helping with an issue on a renewal and whatnot. I get such satisfaction out of seeing them succeed. And I think I honestly think I get more satisfaction out of seeing them succeed than I ever did out of succeeding myself. So kind of that's what motivates me right now, is continuing on with those success stories. But they're success stories for our business, but they're for the young and up and coming people within our business. Seeing things like, I mentioned earlier, Kim Aird having incredible success as the area president in Manitoba, and just like just the take charge kind of attitude. So when you can see people that you've had some influence on, or that you can help with a specific problem or issue, that's really fulfilling for me now.
Oh, amazing. You must, it's like you see yourself in them, hey, all those years ago, and
yeah, a little bit, except most of them are actually better at it, to be honest.
Yeah. Really just a few more here for you, Kevin. So were there any big obstacles that you had to overcome to get to where you are today? Or is it really, you did kind of talk us through your career progression. But was there anything beyond that, really as an obstacle is tough to get through?
Well, I think, there's always obstacles and there's always challenges and whatnot, but I think, and this might sound a bit corny, but there's nothing that hard work and having good ethics can't get you through. Like I always tell people, if you got to compromise to do something and get it done, don't compromise. Just we'll find something else to do. We'll find a better way to do it. But I think it's so important to be incredibly ethical in everything you do. You've got to make sure you ask yourself the question: is this the best thing for the client? And if you can always say yes, it is. Even if it's bad news, like these days, the last couple of years, we've had to deliver double-digit, sometimes triple-digit premium increases and whatnot to clients. But if you've done your best and you've done everything that you could possibly do for the client, tell them as early as you can. Let them know that, hey, we've worked hard. This is the best we can do, and kind of having that honest, open, candid relationship with folks, being ethical, doing the right thing, and like I say, hard work and dedication always prevails.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. So looking forward, what goals do you have for yourself or for Gallagher, I suppose, in the future?
I think the outlook for the industry is really good. I think the outlook, and we've proven that we're kind of pandemic proof as a business. We were able to, start working remotely, and in Manitoba, the essential workers have been able to work. We very quickly got the partitions up. So I think the outlook is really good for the business. There's no doubt there's going to be more consolidation. It's just the nature of everything. So looking for those great acquisition and merger opportunities is great. And I know that we as Gallagher look continuously to try and find businesses that'll complement our business as great merger partners. We look at them more as merger partners than acquisitions, because we're looking for people that want to stay in the business and be part of what we are. But I think for myself personally, I want to continue to develop the young people in this business and continue to encourage people to get involved in the business. And that's why it wasn't, you didn't have to twist my arm very much to get me on this interview.
Yeah.
But I also look forward to whatever the new normal will be for the industry. We know it's probably not going to be, everybody going back all of a sudden one day to work in the office. It's going to be a bit of a hybrid kind of work from home, work from the office. But I do look forward to people getting back in the office in a much more significant way, so that we can interact a little bit more. I think it's good culturally for businesses and for organizations. And, I know there are people that, go through difficulties in times where they can't get together with others. So I look forward to that kind of new normalization. I look forward to getting back to a little bit of travel, maybe not as much as I was doing before, but, some travel to visit with our different regional offices and our folks, around the world. And I do, more importantly, look forward to personal travels. My wife and I are already planning trips for late this year, early next year. So hopefully the world's opened up enough so we can do that.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I feel you on that. I've been working from home since November,
Mhm.
and I came in a couple times. Um, yeah, it's getting tough. I think in the beginning it was kind of like, oh, this is great. Like I wake up, turn my computer on, especially I live outside of Winnipeg. So it's to get to my office, it was like 45-minute drive.
Mhm.
So I saw all these positivities right away, but a month goes by, 2 months goes by, and now those guys and girls that you just joke around with, or I can come to your desk and with a problem, right? I
Yeah.
miss it. I definitely miss that a lot, and I hope I don't. I honestly, if you would have told me we'd still be here like a year ago, I wouldn't have believed it. But now it seems like another year might not isn't a crazy thought. So we'll see. So we'll
Yeah,
see how it ends
well,
up.
I hope hopefully the distribution and uptake on vaccines will, continue to go in the direction they're going. And, first and foremost, everybody's health is really important. So we need to follow, all of the government orders and whatnot. But I do see things, hopefully maybe as we get into the beginning of the fourth quarter of the year, maybe starting to allow us to do things. I mean, some of the aspects of our business, like onboarding new employees, you really have to be able to sit down with them and train them. So some of those things are difficult to do in a remote environment. And, again, you lose out on some of that corporate culture and, that ability to, you know, go out after work and have a few drinks with some fellow employees, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll come back into favor, and the opportunity to do it will come back soon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Kevin, I'll ask you my last question here for you, which I think it's the most important question. So, what areas do you see as the biggest opportunity for young brokers moving forward? And what advice would you give to them to thrive in their career?
Well, one of the things that seems to be proving itself true within our business at Gallagher is the idea of becoming a specialist at something. And there's so many areas that you can become a specialist, construction, transportation, management practices, but become an expert and become a true provider of information to people on it, become somebody that clients can recognize right away, that, they know what they're talking about. Now, in Manitoba, you, for instance, you might not be able to be a specialist in one area and just, sit on that alone. So, you still have to be able to have a bit of a variety. But if you can make that specialty, 30, 40, 50% of what you do, one, you're going to grow more quickly because people will recognize that you're a specialist. You'll collaborate with other people within your office to do that specialty part, work with them to do that. So I really encourage it. And what that takes is dedication, takes training, it takes education. It might take having somebody mentor you. But I really feel strongly that is a really great way for people to kind of be proud of what they're doing more quickly. Have that feeling that they're really good at what they do. Because if you spread yourself too thin in too many areas, sure, you could still have a good career, but I think that most of the people that I've seen that have really had that next level success is those that have identified a specialty and really entrenched themselves in it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Even at Hub, they have specialty practices. So
Yeah.
like within Hub, you can be part of realty, transportation, construction, whatever, and you meet with everyone on that team and just talk, and if you have questions. So they really promote that too. And it's true. Like I'm not a next level producer yet by any means at this point in my career, but when I look around at producers I've met who are, and you see the kind of cars they're pulling up in the parking lot with, they're all specialty guys. So
well, just remember those cars cost a lot of money to own and operate. So yeah, you got to be good at it. So,
yeah.
But no, and at Hub too, you guys get great, national leadership with Tina Olson and Susan Murphy and the likes of them. They really are supportive of that type of thing. So, it's it's important to be able to talk to your immediate superior, your sales management, and get their support in terms of what you want to do, and help you focus on what's going to work best, for you, and make it something that you have an interest in, that you have a genuine interest. And the first interest can't be the money you're going to make. It's got to be a real interest in the business, and that's got to drive you, and then the rest of it will come.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, Kevin, that was all I had for you, my friend. So just want to say I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I know you're a really busy guy, but the insight and feedback and advice that you gave, especially young brokers, and seeing how important it is to you to kind of groom the next generation was awesome to hear. So I can't thank you enough. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I look forward to one day in person, we can having a drink, perhaps the next convention or something.
I'd enjoy that. Hey, listen, I can't think of a way I'd prefer to spend an hour than the hour we just spent. So thanks for the opportunity.
Perfect. Appreciate it, Kevin.
All right. Thanks. Take care.